What's up, pro wrestling fans? Welcome to the Nation's Corner. I am Front Row. Joining me as always is our cast of characters. Tony Justice, the greatest truck driver of all time. Debhausen, the great and powerful. And of course, all the way from Monrovia, Long Island, Mongrovian Mike. What's up, people?
What's going on?
What is up? I'm doing good.
Well, it's been a long week for me. I worked a shit ton of extra hours, and now I'm exhausted, and I need wine and a cigar, and I got to work again tomorrow. So I'm here with you people. What do I know? I'm sitting here talking to you.
Yeah.
Bro, Brian, we're gonna give a shout out to poor Brian. Brian had his Facebook hacked this week, and he's still fighting to try to get it back. So right now he's a man without an identity. But we do see you. We see you in there on the YouTube chat, Brian.
That's amazing. His Facebook got hacked, and it hit his head, and his face looks like it was hacked.
Oh man!
Wow! Shit!
Damn! Damn!
All right, so
I got to go first strike because I know he's got itchy keyboard fingers.
Well, we got a ton of stuff to cover, but first we have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is this week Mission Pro Wrestling announced Dave LaGreca was going to have a partner in his match against JP Harlow, and that's Simon Miller. Simon's obviously no stranger to Mission Pro. He was here a few months ago. Personally, I'm a big fan of Dave. I consider Dave a personal friend. But I have an issue with him coming into Mission Pro, talking about being the man in Mission Pro, talking about being the guy. JP's been there. JP's been there week in, week out for months and years at this point, helping to build that company, standing behind the women, the people who are behind the scenes doing all the work. We've seen him putting up the ring. We've seen him breaking stuff down. I didn't see Dave do any of that when we were there in Texas, when we saw Dave there. I had to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm sponsoring JP Harlow.
Okay. I will go the other direction.
Of course.
I've been critical of Simon Miller in the past because the man cannot find a t-shirt that fits him. and he can't pronounce tacos correctly. He says tacos. However, I am going with Simon and Dave on this one just because, Dave, he doesn't have an athletic bone in his body. All he can do is the lean. So just, have some pity on him and give him the big muscly man to just defend him.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think definitely Dave needs a representation here because Dave's not going to fight his way out of anything. I agree. But when it comes to Mission Pro, when it comes to being there on December 10th for Silver Rails 2, we get a big group of us going, and I think there's going to be a split group. I think there's a bunch of us that have become, close to JP and the folks that run Mission Pro, and there's some folks that are going to be siding with the Busted Open team. So. What do you guys think about this match? What do you guys think Dave's and Simon's chances are? And do we have anybody new going to this thing?
Well, let's see. Let me go. First of all, I have to go with Dave, but I'm not going to sponsor him. I think I've sponsored his ass enough over the past few years. I just ordered my New York chapter Busted Open shirt, and I ordered the nativity flag, and he gets enough of my money, so I'm not going to sponsor him on this event. But I just have a surprise announcement. I'm going to be going to Texas. I just bought my tickets this morning. I booked my hotel. I'm going to be there.
Yes.
Nice. Excellent.
Yay!
Man,
I'm so excited for you guys. I really wish I could be there. I'm like the little one left out on this one, but you guys are gonna have a good time. It's gonna be a fucking blast. I know.
Yeah. We wish you could be there, Deb.
Yeah.
But you know what? They're gonna have to keep us out of trouble that weekend.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a lot of trouble had.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like the end of a get together with the nation with us, and Deb starts making that boo boo face about 2 hours before deadline. You just see it on her face. She's just walking around.
Yeah. It is a sad
We'll
day
miss
when it
you
has
there.
to
You'll
end.
be there in spirit, kid.
Yeah. It is a sad day when it has to end, but you know what? We're going to make the best of it. And, I'm going with Dave on this too. Dave is the draw, man. I mean, he comes anywhere where he goes and he just he brings eyes to it. So, man, this is not going to be any different. I'm with Dave on this. And at some point that weekend, the La Greca Lean is like, it's become pandemonium now. It's the thing now. And so
Deadly.
I want to spearhead that weekend, us all getting together, including if the Mission Pro roster wants to do it with us. Brian can lead that charge, and we'll all do a La Greca lean to kind of bring everybody back together. Do a La Greca thriller style lean and get it on video. That'll be amazing.
Yeah, that'd
Dave.
be pretty cool because if we could get like a dozen of us plus the whole Mission Pro.
Yes. Dave, bring your thriller jacket. I know you have one of them red leather jackets at home in your closet. Bring it with you because you might need it.
And leave those orange orthopedic sneakers home.
I see you, Shofi. We're all wishing and hoping the same thing. We're hoping Dave comes out to that La Greca lean because it's a great song.
So it looks like JP might be a little outnumbered on this one. It's 3-1 against JP.
Hey, I always root for the heels, but it's the choice between two heels. Of course, we know Dave's the heel on Busted Open.
That's true. That's actually a great
Dave
point.
is a very passive-aggressive heel on Busted Open, but JP told me to shove it in my cram hole, so much like the Hollywood fashion plate, I'll wrap you with my cane, you pencil neck geek.
Brian's putting the word down. No La Greca.
Whoa.
Is his finishing move banned?
You guys might just have to be rule breakers. I don't know.
I don't know what's next. Are we going to ban the Orange Cassidy super kicks?
No, but then okay, so I agree with Brian. It's too dangerous for old men. However, last minute, that could always be changed. You could have a no holds barred match, and then it could be changed.
Could be. Well, we're gonna have to wait and see what happens on December 10th. Mission Pro Wrestling Silver Bells 2. Check it out on Title Match Network, or grab tickets if you're in the area or you're within driving distance, or just go. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
I expect tickets will sell out because it's gonna be a big show, with a lot of big names, and man, it's gonna be fun.
Yes,
I mean, I think a whole section is gonna be just our group anyway, so
it will be a banger.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. All right, so I do want to cover. There's one thing I want to cover, but we're going to save it till later in the show. I think I definitely want to cover the Nick Aldis stuff and the Billy Corgan stuff from this week.
Absolutely,
because they were pretty topical and pretty high profile. But let's talk about some of the big stuff that happened during this week in the world of wrestling. So I did not get a chance to see Dynamite, but I did see pretty much everything else. I want to switch it up a little bit. There's been a lot of focus on Impact, and I knew you guys who watch it, Deb and Elder and a few others, have spoken very highly of the product lately. The pay-per-views that I've seen have been really, really good. So why don't you sell us a little bit on what's been happening this week, and why should we go sign up for the YouTube service? Because I don't get access here. So
yeah. So yeah, Impact has really, like I keep saying it every week, Impact has been killing it. We saw the return of Bully Ray recently. We just saw this last week that Violent by Design kind of reintroduced themselves with Alan Five Angels of the Dark Order joining them. So Violent by Design is going after Sami Callihan, and it's a really, really interesting story because Sami Callihan legit scares me. Like he's frightening. And
they're gonna beat him. They beat him down, and there's nobody that's coming to his help.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he burned all his bridges with people.
And Deb, to your point, Sami Callihan is one of those guys that is forcing people to pay attention to Impact. I remember not that long ago when he had that feud with Eddie Edwards and the baseball bat and the whole deal. Like I think that was one of those watershed moments for Sami as a character and as a wrestler, but also for the brand, that they had moved past the stink of TNA and really had branded Impact into this new thing.
Right. And I think since crowds came back at shows, they've just been on another level. The matches in themselves have been absolutely insane. We saw the other night on Impact, Jordan Grace and Giselle Shaw, which was just a phenomenal match. There was an awesome promo for Giselle. So if you didn't get a chance to watch that, go back and watch that. Great promo for Giselle. Bully put poor Zicky Dice through a table pretty quickly. Then Moose comes out and puts Bully through a table. So
not before he nutted him.
Yeah, he had to do that because
that'll happen.
And we have Joe Hendry.
I believe in Joe Hendry.
We have Joe Hendry as our new digital media champion, beating up Ryan Myers.
And it was a pretty fast match too, wasn't it?
Kinda. Yeah.
Has Joe Hendry, because I remember seeing Joe Hendry in Ring of Honor, he's gotten bigger and put on a lot of muscle weight in recent months. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah,
he looks really good right now. And this whole, it's silly, but it's entertaining AF. And I think, that's one of the most important things. We've got Mickie James killing it on her, last rodeo thing that she's doing.
We have to talk about that.
Yes.
You have to talk about this because Mickie James beat Chelsea Green, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So Chelsea's now like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Oh, and real quick, I want to thank Neil for his insight Impact. Thanks, Neil. Appreciate you.
Profound.
Sweet.
No, but
With
so Chelsea's now in this position where she has a match tonight. She has a match for the NWA Women's World Championship against Camille and Kylan King, which I'm very excited about. It's probably the only match on that show that I'm very excited about. But that's a different story, and it's headlining. So I'm happy about all that. But so you guys who have followed Impact, do you think that Chelsea's on this path to being a bigger part of the NWA? There's rumors swirling around that she may be about to sign a contract with one of the big two. Like, where do you see her going?
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of, this scuttlebutt, if you may, that she might be making a return to WWE. Who knows? I think with the regime change at WWE, it could work out for her this time. I don't think she's going to be having a larger role at NWA.
You don't see them putting the title on her?
No.
But
and I want to mention, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think was it you, Tony, last night we were talking that you had the theory that
it was
Matt
John.
Cardona comes
It was
back.
John in South Jersey.
John in South Jersey. That's it.
Yeah.
I knew it was one of the great minds, so not mine. He had a good theory. The way he laid it out sounded good. If Billy Corgan would go for it, it would be money. But making Chelsea and Matt the twin champs there and have the Cardonas taking over NWA for a while. But
yeah, and I think Matt Cardona posted something about that today too, about them being the new power couple of the NWA and both holding the two titles. And storyline wise, it's interesting, right? It's interesting to have.
Do you see Chelsea pinning Camille straight up, or do you see?
No.
Yeah,
no.
Cardona
shenanigans are going to happen.
It has to be, because there's no way otherwise I wouldn't be able to suspend that disbelief.
Well, and neither one of them, because Camille and Kylan might even be a little bit taller than Camille. Like they're both big, strong people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't see, and I'm a fan of Chelsea and her work, but I mean, come on, what are we doing here?
If I had my druthers, I love Camille, but I the mother effing king,
Exactly.
It's
and
hard,
I know we're not going
it's hard to root against her, whoever she's going against.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know we're not running down that card, but as long as we're talking about this match, this is the third or fourth, I think it's at least the third time that Kylan's challenging for this title, and man, I hope she wins because I would love to see her hold that world title.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think she's earned it right now.
Yeah.
I think she's definitely earned it. But yeah, and we were talking about Impact. They've just been week to week. It's been really good. It's been really, really great wrestling matches. And then all the other stuff that pieces the show together, the promos and the, transitional segments and all that, have been really great as well. So yeah, I definitely recommend, if you have your Thursday night free or just want to go back and watch it on YouTube at some point. It's definitely like the hidden gem of the wrestling world right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree. So over on WWE, there was a couple big things that happened. There was actually a bunch of big stuff that happened this week. I tend to gravitate towards the women's segments because they're the things that I pay the closest attention to over the last 5 or 10 years because we've seen such growth, in all the different companies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to jump all over the place, so you guys will have to bear with me. I absolutely love this version of Ronda Rousey. I think this is the version that we should have gotten from day one. She's natural. She's a heel. She's kind of an asshole. And now that she's teamed up with Shayna, and Shayna is, her best friend or one of her closest friends for years and years. Now you've got this natural friendship. You've got a chemistry there. On screen, they're having fun. And like when Shayna choked out Shotzi last night, and what did Ronda say? Clean up on Al Green. And she just kind of walks away. It's sort of a nod to the Booker T and Stone Cold thing, but it was really subtle and it really well done. So I'm very excited to see where they're going to go with her.
Yeah, I think more so like not just the character development from Ronda, but just finally seeing them both as badass, like strong, I'll punch your face out and laugh at you type women.
Yeah.
They're both.
I'm more happy to see that from Shayna than from Ronda, quite frankly, because I think Shayna just has been, I don't know the word to describe it. It's just been very unfortunate what her WWE run has been. So I think this is definitely a breath of fresh air, and this is seeing, what she's really capable of.
Yeah, and Tony, I wanted to ask you about this too, because we have been one of the threads of this show over recent months has been Triple H has been fixing things, righting the wrongs, using the eraser to just sort of make all the mistakes go away. And I have to feel like this is something the Shayna Baszler we're seeing now is closer to her NXT, and even I would go further into her Japan and Indie Day. Like this is a heel version of her. So are you liking what you're seeing, and where else are we seeing some of the changes that Triple H is making?
Oh yeah, I'm loving this version of Shayna Baszler. I mean, she's coming out as a beast. She's like Ronda's muscle in a way. If Ronda needs any kind of muscle, she basically is making sure no one gets near Ronda, and handling business. I mean, you saw what she did to Natty. I mean, just freaking busted her nose open, broke it, but yeah, man, this is the version of Shayna that we've been wanting to see ever since she came to the main roster, and it's in ways it's more badass than she was in NXT in a way, because she's just being ruthless. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of changes being made. I mean, we watched Raw Monday night, and we were talking about how they accomplished a few things on Raw. They did away with the 24/7 championship. they Austin Theory with his cash in on a secondary championship, which I didn't understand, but I mean they basically just got that briefcase away from Austin Theory, and I mean they're doing certain things little by little, and it's got Triple H's fingerprints on it. I had a discussion with someone in our Discord yesterday, I think it was. We were talking about the 24/7 thing and how they could have had a story, and they still could have a story if they wanted to go that route because she missed the trash can. It hit the floor. So you could have a story with that if you wanted to. I don't think they're going to, but one of the main players in the 24/7 storyline is injured right now in R-Truth. So if you wanted to have a story with that and kind of see the 24/7 championship out, give it some sort of ending, you'd want R-Truth to be involved with that. So since he's not there, I guess they may have chose to do this. I don't know. But to your point, Front Row, it's Triple H's fingerprints are all over this, and we'll just see what happens from here on out. But I'm enjoying things happening little by little.
But you're saying something, and I agree 100%. Wouldn't it be funny? Because R-Truth is the guy that comes out and goes, "Oh, my bad." Like he's tremendous. If they officially retired that title, which they have, they've taken it off the website. It's officially retired. But he doesn't pay attention to that. He just comes out every week with that title, with a replica title, claiming to be the 24/7 I-95, the whole deal. But someone has to keep telling him that there's nobody's going to challenge you for that because that's not a real thing. Oh no, I got it right here. I won it. When I left, I was champion, and now I'm back, and I'm still. I love that idea. That's cool.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that Truth could really pull off.
Yes, the dude is ridiculously talented.
Yeah. Jimmy was watching it for him. His pal Jimmy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Elder, Mongrovian Mike, I got to ask you because I saw the post, and we all sort of made fun of the 24/7 title, but I do think it gave some people an opportunity to exercise their comedic side, and they had legit matches for it. But for me, I look at that and I go, R-Truth and Dana Brooke, they had something to do every week that was on TV, and Dana Brooke took it really seriously. She's like, "This is the only title I've ever held in the company. I've been here forever, and I'm trying to do something with it that's meaningful." And she was kind of hurt, I think, at the online hatred towards it. And I kind of felt a little bad for her because I think that she did the best that she could with that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I kind of felt bad for her, definitely.
Well, yeah. Why would she get mad? Why would she get mad at the online hate towards the 24/7 title? But that's okay. I don't know. Maybe she was trying to play into it, but. Hey, what if R-Truth is just rolling by in his wheelchair and he found that belt and he just kept it?
That'd be amazing.
That would be great.
Different cities, but
they could just record it. They could just record that anytime.
You know what I would love to see? I would love to see his childhood hero, John Cena, making a special appearance in just that one segment where he gives it back to R-Truth. Oh, you dropped this.
You lost this. I found this.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's brilliant.
And you could give him a whole buck 'em up speech. Like, you were the only one that treated this title with respect. How dare they take your title that you made so prestigious and throw it in the trash can? Who do they think they are, Medusa?
This is a good idea, Steve.
Yeah.
the title has bad juju and no one will pin him. That's amazing.
Okay.
Steve's just chock full of good ideas.
I saw Shofi's in the chat too. He's talking about Drake Maverick. Drake Maverick does, I believe, still work there as a producer.
He does. Yeah, he's a producer now.
Yeah.
Which good for him.
Yeah, wasn't that a journalist, football player?
He's really talented.
He's great. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things said about him from people who've worked with him, no matter what company.
Can you just see him being a producer? He's producing in the back, and all of a sudden, R-Truth comes by with the belt, and he goes, "Oh, hold on a second. Let me do this again." Oh God! I mean,
get us back on track here. Please.
One more thing.
Okay.
One more thing. Drake Maverick, if he's working there, he'd have to be shown on camera. Show him wearing the 24/7 championship like he did in that hotel room,
and nothing else. Yeah,
Oh my god. Okay, so all right, back to WWE.
That was WWE.
Yeah. So we got the proper return reintroduction of the Viking Raiders. Sarah Logan looks badass. Sarah Logan looks quite a lot like Max the Impaler.
Mhm.
Yes, she does.
Which is not a bad thing.
It's not, but my God, talk about getting hate from the internet community, from all the independent wrestlers who are like, she's been killing it out here. Like, she's on the pay-per-view tonight, an NWA, I believe.
Yeah.
Max is. They are.
But
sorry,
they don't know what they're talking about. It's like Gene Simmons saying King Diamond is stealing his makeup idea.
But you got to admit, the look was awfully similar.
Very, very similar, but
I wouldn't say a theft.
It is.
But, like, it's close.
Very, very similar, but I do love Sarah Logan, so I'm not gonna falter for it. She's really living that like Viking lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good on her. We got another return. We got Mia Yim back in WWE, joining the OC. I heard on Corey Graves' podcast I listened to yesterday after the bell. He had the Good Brothers on, and they kind of went through a really good rundown of the Good Brothers' history with the Bullet Club, how they met Finn in the first place, all that kind of stuff. And now coming back to WWE, reuniting with AJ, and now bringing in Mia Yim. So I definitely highly recommend that episode of After the Bell. Not only for that, but his discussion about Austin Theory.
Yeah, and to your point, they actually mentioned the Bullet Club on commentary this week.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're doing, and this comes back to our thread of the Triple H changes, where I even heard the Saraya interview with Renee this week, and she was talking about working with Triple H and how creative and collaborative he was, and they're naming PWG and the Bullet Club and New Japan and Pro Wrestling Noah, where they mentioned the Shinsuke Nakamura and Great Muta match. Like, they're just talking about everything. Now,
yeah,
in reality, like, it's not really a big deal that they're talking about this stuff on TV, but it forever has been forbidden. And
right. So that makes it a big deal.
It makes it a big deal, and it also tells the fans that the people in charge now respect your intelligence a lot more than they did before.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it also, like, think about how we always talk about how there's a big chunk of the WWE audience that doesn't really know much or anything of the wrestling industry outside of the WWE. I've known people who just watch Raw and SmackDown, and, I don't know if that would be considered a casual fan, because they're completely dedicated to Raw and SmackDown and go to live events a lot. But they're just so unaware of everything else that happens on social media, because they just don't seek out that, on social media and everything else, all the other companies. So when they're on commentary and they're kind of explaining the history of the Bullet Club and mentioning these other companies, it might inspire someone to be like, oh, AJ Styles and Nakamura have known each other for how long? They've had matches in Japan. Let me go look that up.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting too, but I'm sorry, go ahead, Tony.
Oh, go ahead, Barbara. Go ahead.
Just real quick, because when Shinsuke and AJ first had that match, that terrible match where they were doing the nut shots and stuff, they did mention that they had history in Japan, but it was just this magical Japan land. They didn't say New Japan. They didn't say Pro Wrestling Noah. They didn't specify, oh, they had this match at the Tokyo Dome or Cork and Hall. Like, I like the way that it's specifically paying homage and honoring the fans' history of being a fan, right?
Hey, Ziggy.
Yeah. Hey, Ziggy. Shout out to Ziggy.
Shout out to Ziggy.
Team Ziggy.
Ziggy.
Team Ziggy.
Yeah, and I think there's even a lot of, non-wrestling fans who just maybe, catch an episode of SmackDown here or there because it's on Fox. My brother's kind of one of them. He doesn't really keep up with the product, but once in a while he watches, like, he knows who Roman Reigns is. He knows who Becky Lynch is. He knows who Charlotte is. So he might just watch an episode of SmackDown here and there, and just the acknowledging that there are other wrestling companies around the world. There are so many non-wrestling fans that are like, oh, I thought wrestling was just an American thing, and I thought it was just the WWE. Like, people don't know.
Right. But see, it's the same thing Busted Open does. They'll talk about something on the air, and people that are listening to Busted Open go, well, hey, they're speaking highly of this. Let me go check this out. It's kind of the
Right.
same thing. So
Yep.
it's the way the wrestling community should be, as far as spreading the wealth on everything, not just one company, but everything. Because
Right.
there are going to be people that are dedicated to WWE, or there are going to be people that are going to be dedicated to AEW, and that have strayed away from WWE, and they're strictly AEW, but
Mhm.
come back to the WWE now that Triple H is in control. You know, like a lot of us have. You know,
Oh, yeah.
we're there's an excitement in the air now that WWE is doing what they're doing, and AEW is continuing to do the same thing. But I think that there is a big wave coming, and it's WWE, and
Mhm.
it makes it so exciting. And then with your talk on Impact at the beginning of the show, we might have turned people on that are watching our show that don't watch Impact, say, well, hey, let me check Impact out this week. So
Right.
that's what we should do as a wrestling community, is just turn people on to different things.
And it's also not that WWE is that AEW. I'm sorry, is putting out a bad product. It's just that WWE's up their game, and hey, you know what? It's only natural. WWE has millions more viewers. So once
Mhm.
they're up in their game, they're getting more eyes on their product as usual. And AEW just has to kick up their game.
Right.
They have to pick it up. They have Tony. I agree that Tony has a problem with all telling a lot of stories. He only like seems to nitpick on a couple of them and keep going. So he's got to pick up his game on stories too. He's got to have a team there to get the story to get the stories in line, and even the lesser stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things, I've heard Sam Roberts on his podcast say this a lot. He always quotes Eric Bischoff, right? Eric Bischoff says you could be better than, worse than, or different from. Those are your choices. If you're not going to be better than someone, you better be different from them, or you're going to fail. And I feel like AEW needs to find a way to differentiate themselves from the competition, because the competition is way bigger and better, and in every aspect of production they are far superior. But you don't have to beat them on that level. You just have to do something else. Impact's doing something else. NWA has their own flavor. MLW has their own flavor. Are they as big as WWE? No, of course not. But that doesn't mean they can't be successful and grow their brand and their audience. If MLW has a 50% increase this year in audience, yeah, it might only be a few thousand people or 10,000 people, but they've grown their audience. Their business model is headed in the right direction. I feel like AEW is very stagnant. I feel like I like the product as far as matches go, but I don't see them really doing anything that's bringing new people in and getting them to stick and stay.
Yeah, I agree.
We also don't count ratings, because our whole group, if you take our whole group, God, we cover the whole range of things between AEW. Deb watches AEW Dark and even catches all the podcasts and Twitch shows.
I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Wrestling wise, we got Ezra and Neil doing the NJPW and all that stuff, and the GC Dub. So we really cover a whole area. We're all trying to spread out with the independents that aren't even on TV or might be on small little services. But that's what we do. Everything.
I want to make one point. We were talking about people, about commentary, talking about other companies, and I want to pull this comment up from Shofi. And Shofi, I adore you. You know why. Imagine the reaction if AEW gets mentioned. Now, AEW has gotten mentioned on WWE a bunch of times, just not on Raw or SmackDown. Jericho was on. Cody was on Stone Cold's podcast. People from AEW have been on there. They've spoken openly about it, just not on commentary. So it's not like they're afraid of speaking about it. I think you're just not going to hear it on their premium wrestling product. But you've seen content. They had stills from Jericho's AEW stuff on Steve Austin's show on Peacock on the WWE Network. So they're not afraid of anything.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I was just listening to Corey Graves' podcast, and he was talking to the Good Brothers, and they talked about when they were at Impact and, you know, working with AEW and, you know, all the stuff that they did in their time away from WWE. They talked about all of that. So, you know, things like that, don't shy away from talking about the outside stuff. And Corey Graves did also kind of make a little quip there about, you know, it's a new regime, so we can talk about this now.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Zelda's making a nest behind me.
Oh yeah.
All right, so I just want to before we start talking about AEW and then Sam Roberts, couple other little things about WWE. Usos and the New Day, I think those two tag teams have like the best chemistry I've ever seen in any tag teams, other than maybe like Dudley's, Hardy's, and Edge and Christian. They have such good chemistry, those four guys, and hopefully Big E comes back soon. And I think right now at this point they're really cementing both of their legacies as two of the best tag teams to ever be in WWE. What do you guys think?
Yeah, and I agree. So like this match was, and we don't do match breakdowns per se, but holy shit, what a match. Like that's one that both teams, for as long as they've been around, should put probably in their top 3 or top 4 matches they've ever had.
Yeah.
And so Usos go on to, I think Monday is the day, right, where they reach the 483 day mark where they break the record.
I think they said that, yeah.
Which is awesome. I'm happy for both teams. You know, New Day's done what they've done. The Usos, in my opinion, are the best tag team in the world. And that's above FTR. And not that FTR aren't better technical wrestlers. I just think when you're putting the whole package together, especially what they're doing in the Bloodline right now, there's nobody bigger and better than the Usos to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. There's the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express. There's
Road Warriors.
Is the Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian, and the Hardy Boys. And yeah,
Road Warriors.
You got the Road Warriors in that mix, but these two teams, I'm just going by two teams going against each other. Road Warriors killed everybody.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yes.
They killed everybody. They're above everybody. But as far as rivalries, I mean, this is modern day. This is what they are. They just put on banger after banger. They don't have to set anything up. They probably just know right off the bat what each other feels and knows what to do, and
yeah,
it's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, we heard Mark Henry yesterday on Busted Open talking about just the bloodline and the lineage in that family, and just think about like how many tag teams that family had. Not only Alpha and Sika, Rikishi, and I'm blanking on the name. I can't remember. But yeah. But yeah, like there's been some really, really dominant tag teams just from one family. And it's just insane. They've gotten to just a whole other level recently. And, New Day is just absolutely still killing it as well. They've been the New Day for quite a while now. And I don't really know if there's any stopping them now. Like I think they're going to be around for a little while still.
Yeah, I loved the promo from Monday, where, because I remember going to house shows, Mrs. Front Row will back me up on this, but like we went to house shows when the preacher gimmick first started with the New Day, and they were getting booed out of the building.
Oh yeah, I hated that. That was terrible.
And it was terrible, but like man, they turned it into something special to the point where over the last 6-7 years, I guess it was in 2014 or 15 it debuted. I want to say 14 maybe they debuted it. And it took a couple of years for them to really dial in, but when they started having fun with it, we're talking about a run. And people, you could talk about all the greatest tag teams in wrestling, but I'm talking about a serious run where you're on TV every week, sometimes twice a week on every pay-per-view for close to a decade.
Host
Yeah.
of the WrestleMania.
Yeah,
Yes,
I mean,
good
host
point.
WrestleMania, and we were there. We were at WrestleMania 33 when they hosted. It was awesome.
Mhm.
I just think that they have a very special run. When it's all said and done, a few years from now, whatever, 5-10 years at this point, they probably will have the biggest, most successful run in the history of the business.
Right. Yeah.
Just because
Yeah, the three of them.
they've made so much money in merchandising, it's insane.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm
They'd be
sure.
crazy to break them up.
And I think the biggest difference from when the New Day initially formed and it was just awful and I couldn't stand it. It was terrible. To what they eventually became, that they were, they're just being themselves. Like if you've watched Up Up Down Down, if you've watched anything that any three of those guys have put out in the media, they're just being themselves. They're goofy, they're funny, they're nerdy, and that's what's so great about the New Day is it's just pure fun.
Yeah.
With good wrestling too.
Mm-hmm. And anytime you can be yourself on screen, the sky's the limit. Instead of being being something you're not, putting on trying to get something over that just does not work for you. When you're being yourself, that's where there's money.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's a thing that Nick Aldis talks about in the Sam Roberts interview. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. Is about the authenticity and the crowd. The modern, more intelligent crowd. They sense when you're not telling them the truth.
Yeah.
It's only a character, that's fine, but I have to believe it. And people like the New Day, people like Nick Aldis, people like oh my goodness, so many different people, like even Britt Baker. Like those people come out and you're like, I really believe that this is the person that I'm seeing on TV. Right, this is the person behind the scenes, maybe dialed down a little bit, and probably in the New Day's case, probably not. They're probably dialed up backstage, but they save so much energy.
Yeah.
In fact, a side note, I was looking at I have my Rob Schamberger stuff in the other room, and I have a New Day signed, Rob Schamberger, and all three of them signed it, and
Nice.
Kofi signed underneath it, #POP Power Positivity.
Nice.
And I just thought that was so much fun that he would take the time to just do a little, because at first I read that because they call him Pops, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, he's just signing at Pops. I'm like, oh no, that's the Power of Positivity, which is the hearkening back to I just adore them, and I think they're so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
What do we have? What happened big in the world of AEW this week? Because I have some thoughts on a few things. I know you guys do too.
All right. So, first let's talk about MJF. I remember commenting it to you guys that night, but it's remarkable to me that every week MJF does his best promo ever. And it's insane to even think about that every week we're going, holy crap, this is the best one he's done yet.
Yeah.
And that's how good he is. So what do you guys
He's number
think about
one.
that?
He's number one with a bullet, with a microphone, hands down. Number one with a microphone all across the wrestling world right now.
Yeah.
Hands
Yeah,
down.
I would agree. And I think in the last 15 to maybe 20 years, I can only think of one name who could actually do better than him or take him to task, and that's John Cena.
I thought you were going to say Sid Vicious.
Nah, maybe a strong second. But Cena has this ability to, no matter what the situation, he's so quick-witted, he's so unscripted. He's the only person, literally the only person I can think of. And I'm a big Rock fan, but his stuff was still kind of scripted, right? I don't see anybody in the modern landscape that is anywhere on his level on the mic.
I would agree with that.
It is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so this is a question I wanted to ask you guys. So,
Right.
Again, Nick talks about MJF in the interview, and he brings up a point. You have to be careful with a character like this because when someone's that good and they're so authentic, it sort of exposes less dimensional, the less fleshed out characters from the other performers, right? So MJF is so good and so crisp and so sharp at what he does. I mean, everybody else looks like shit. And you might be trying to build somebody. How do you build somebody to face a guy like that when you know you can't put him on the mic, or you have to tell MJF you got to dial it back?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's MJF is so good on the mic at not only his promo work, and I imagine if he had to dial it back, he could, because MJF is that good. But not only is he so good at his promos, but he's also good at, he's going against Moxley at Full Gear, right? He's saying things to Moxley while putting him over, not putting him down to where you're not going to give a crap about the match. If MJF does beat Moxley, well, he's not really doing anything because he's putting him down in the promos and stuff. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing as far as putting each other over while they're, supposed to be talking trash about each other, but they're doing it while putting each other over. And I thought that's something to put an attention span on. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen multiple interviews from MJF where he has a very interesting way of putting people over. Like he'll say that, oh, I like this person, he's a great wrestler, great guy. Great guy. He'll say things like that. Like he'll really compliment the other person on how amazing they are, but then twist it and say, yeah, but I'm still better.
Yeah.
He's good at the backhanded compliments.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you guys know, because this is the same fucking same problem I have every week with this, right? They don't do that in the women's division. Why is it every fan everywhere who's watched wrestling for more than 2 months knows that if you don't build up anybody, then who did you beat? It's basic. If you tell everybody that your division is shit and nobody can wrestle and they're terrible, well, why should we watch?
Right.
Exactly.
You're not giving me any reason to dial in or to tune in or to click on a link. Like, you're not giving me any reason to watch your product if your stars are telling me it's terrible.
I got a solution. Put Britt Baker in a program with Jade Cargill and let them no-sell each other into oblivion.
No, but that'll be a 2-minute match. Jade will win, but she's already beaten Britt. Like, she's beaten everybody, and she just goes on TV and tells you that it's terrible.
Yeah. It's definitely the biggest problem in AEW's women's division is, you have the people that are the faces of the division just saying week after week after week that nobody else there is good, that everybody sucks. So if everybody sucks, then why is it such a big deal that you beat them?
Right.
Yeah.
It's not. If they suck, then you should beat them. So like then it makes it not interesting because, this person's telling me that the other person sucks and they're going to beat him easily. So why should I even care about the match?
Yeah, or even worse, you've got them saying Jade says that all these people that I beat are terrible. They can't hold a candle to me. They can't wrestle. Whatever. They don't say they can't wrestle, but they run them down, and then they throw a match graphic up for next week, and you go, yeah, but those are the people you just told me were terrible. Like, why should I watch? Why should I care?
Why should I care about the match? Yeah.
Now you get someone like a Willow Nightingale. You tell me a story where Willow Nightingale comes back from Japan, and she takes Jade to task and almost beats her in a long match, and now you're telling me, oh, this person might be able to actually get it done. Now I care. But if people are just going to lose over and over again, and we even saw that with the Kayla Sparks and Nyla Rose match, and shout out to Kayla Sparks. I'm a big fan. She's friend of the show. And hey, by the way, we got 2 people from the LGBTQ community wrestling on primetime on Friday.
Hey.
I'm all for it. Very, very cool. But that match was like a 30-second match. Like,
yeah. And I think that's also another problem is I don't think EW knows how to make good storylines with the women that are beasts, like Nyla and Jade. They're beasts and they're super strong. And they don't really know how to make a story out of it because they're so much more intimidating looks wise than any other of the ladies. So yeah, that's a problem. They just but I really love Nyla. I really love what Nyla's doing right now. She cracks me up. Nyla Rose is a national treasure.
I adore her. I do have to give Shofi credit for this point because they had a video package on Rampage that was longer and better and did more to promote the women's roster than the actual wrestling that was on the show.
Right on, Shofi. Right on.
It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way.
Well, they could do much better with Jade than making her Jade Bird. That's for sure.
Yeah. Right. One thing about Nyla that Deb was talking about, we were actually in the building when she showed up at Baltimore Celeb Fest and went and talked trash to the to Jade's crew.
The baddies.
The baddies, yeah. I had a brain fart and I haven't been hitting head a lot. So what does that say about me? So yeah, we were there. We just all of a sudden heard a commotion. We were on the opposite end of the building because we were over like by, I think we were in line to meet Bret, I think it was Bret Hart. And we all of a sudden heard a commotion and we're like looking and you just see a wave of people running towards and we're like, what's going on? And I think Steve walked and told us that Nyla was over there with the belt and she was talking trash to the baddies. And then sure enough, we saw it on AEW television on Dynamite, I think it was, or Rampage. It was pretty funny though.
It was really funny. I was you and Chris were over a line. I was actually close to the doorway area. So I saw her come in and she had some people around her, but I saw her walk in and Seth was like, "Oh, hey, that's Nyla." And we're both like, "I don't remember her being advertised for this convention." And then I didn't really see what she did after that, but I heard a bunch of, you hear the murmur across the room that something's happening. And then we saw the video later on. I was like, oh, that's what she did. That's pretty.
Yeah. And then
we
saw Dave. We're like, Dave, Nyla just walked in. He was like, where? And we pointed over that way and he went and found her.
Yeah. He went over and said hi to her. So. But yeah, it just, she lives in the DC area, so not far from Baltimore. So she was like, hey, I'm just gonna roll up here and, taunt the baddies.
Yeah.
Why not?
What the hell? And this version of Nyla, they're letting her be herself. Oh,
yeah.
So much better. Let it be a beast. We love cake and violence, bitches. We know that. But
cake and violence.
We want her to put someone to a table at every match, yes. But this funny, these lines, these one-liners, and the snarkiness, and it's just, and and everybody says it. I might as well say it too. If you don't follow her on Instagram or Twitter, and just those will make you chuckle every few minutes when you see her, posts.
Yeah, that's good entertainment.
It breaks up the day.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
Yes. Anything else from AEW?
Just real quick. We don't really have to discuss it, but real quick, the Bryan Danielson Sammy Guevara match was a freaking phenomenal match as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what you guys thought, but I thought it was a great wrestling match. Bryan Danielson consistently shows, that he has, such a passion and such a drive to just wrestle. He just wants to wrestle.
Yeah.
So I thought that was great. And Mox gave a promo in response to MJF, which was I thought showed kind of some of Mox that we haven't seen before, because he's always been shifty-eyed. He never really looks directly at the camera. He's always moving so fast, hair's in the face. For that promo, he looked directly into the lens of that camera, and you saw his pretty blue eyes. And he just
Deb, take a drink.
It was just, it was and the words that he was saying, I was legit hypnotized by him. The words that he was saying
was hypnotized by it.
As he's staring directly into the lens. Yeah. I was hypnotized by it.
Gunga
I
Din.
was mesmerized by it. I really was, though. That promo was fire, all the way.
All right, so you gotta talk about this for a second because I want to get your thoughts on this because since CM Punk left, I feel like Jon Moxley has felt the responsibility to take charge of the locker room. Not that he hasn't been before, but I've seen a different sort of leadership from him, and we only see what's on TV, but like I feel like there's a different vibe about him since the
Yeah.
CM Punk thing happens. I feel like he's taking control, and I'll add this: I listened to the Saraya interview with Renee, and Saraya said, "Look, I'm not getting any coaching from Tony. He's just letting me do whatever I want." Well, that's not necessarily a good thing. What is a good thing is she also said that Mox has been talking to her every day, helping her figure out what her character is going to be, coaching. And I feel like I have to think that's probably happening with other people too. I think he's becoming, between Mox and Jericho, you've got two locker room leaders who I think are just saying, all right, the boss is going to pay the bills. Someone has to get this shit in order. Someone has to put this house into shape. And I think those are the guys that are doing it.
And those are the right guys to do it as well. You know, yes, they do have a lot of other veterans as, you know, backstage agents or whatever you want to call them. But having, you know, some of the active roster talent be those coaches and leaders, I think it's been really valuable, it seems. And Saraya is very close friends with Renee. So, you know, Mox is part of the reason why Saraya came to AEW in the first place, because they had a conversation, and she also had a conversation with Jericho. So yeah, definitely Jericho and Mox specifically seem to be stepping it up and becoming those leaders and becoming those people that kind of like direct how things are going.
I think Mox has finally stepped into his own now. He wants this responsibility now. I don't think he ever wanted it in the past. I think he just wanted to do his own thing, come on and bleed and fight and then go home, you know. But now he's in his sweet spot. He's got his wife and kid with him. He, you know, I mean, he's you know, he's clean and sober. He's got the belt.
Yeah.
He's got a headache that's going to get paid off to go away. So you know,
I think
that's it. All we got to do is wait for our champ Thunder to come back with the real belt.
Yeah. Shout out to Thunder. I think one word to describe Mox right now is focused.
Yes.
Focused. He is focused, and you could see it in his eyes. You could see just the way he's performing in the ring, the promos he's given towards MJF. That match is going to be awesome next week. I cannot wait to see it. Tony,
do you think that match is too soon?
No, because they've been telling a good story with it. I don't think it's too soon. I mean, to have one match with Mox and MJF, and who knows where it's going to go after that. I don't think it's too soon. I think there's been a good story being told with it, with the firm, along with the firm, and doing what they're doing right now. I think it's a good time to have a match between the two. And you know, we'll just see what happens after that. If they choose to have another match down the road, a rubber match, whatever, you know, there's room to tell that kind of story too. So
does MJF get the belt this time? Do they stretch it out?
I don't think MJF needs the belt right now.
He doesn't need the belt, and I think everyone's assuming, hey, it's going to be Newark. It's his own backyard, and this and that. And it could be the turn of Mox, and then the turn of and then the eventual real turn of MJF into a real face, maybe.
Well, he's there now. I mean, the crowd is already responding to him like he's a good guy.
Yeah, he is a face, but I mean a full blown face where like maybe he'll trick us and none of us will be even thinking that the other shoe's gonna drop any minute. You know?
That's the beauty of MJF's character is he could be a babyface for 6 months, and in a 5-minute promo, it's all done. Like it's all back to where it was. Like he's right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he can go 6 minutes or 6 months. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Really quick, front row. I know we need to move on, but one thing I want to say is there's something they keep telling in the story with MJF that Regal mentioned in their standoff in the ring, their promo. He's got to do something dastardly. He's got to do something. He's calling himself the devil. He's got to do something, and they keep making reference to that. So what is that something going to be? If he's trying to be being pushed as a babyface right now, and people are wanting him as a babyface, but he still calls himself the devil. And I'm just that part of the story it's got a question mark on it for me.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question because they've known he was getting babyface reactions for some time.
Yeah.
Right. And the whole devil thing, I don't know if that was intentional or if they expected it to actually go to a dark place, but it's not.
Right.
Like to your point, I don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's part of the thing that's exciting. We'd always talk about,
we don't know
stories.
Yeah,
we don't know. And I don't want to know. Like, I'm excited that we don't know.
Who's to say?
It's a maybe at best.
At best.
Right. Speaking of which,
Good segue.
Good segue. Speaking of, so this week on Busted Open, and we'll just do a very brief recap on Busted Open. Billy Corgan was on, and he had a lot of negative things to say about Nick Aldis, who has recently given his notice to the NWA that he is leaving at the end of his contract. Billy said that Nick was unprofessional and that he was, I believe he said, scorched earth with the locker room, and it was pretty much 30 minutes of Billy being, and I am one of those people that have been fortunate enough to spend a little bit of time around Billy. I don't claim to know him, but we've had a handful of conversations with him. He sounded very angry. It was probably the most negative I've heard him. So I could tell that he was flustered and sort of bothered by the events. Fast forward to a couple hours later, or like the next day, I should say, Nick Aldis flew to New York, and as they said on the podcast, went to the Not Sam studio, and they did an hour and 25-minute interview. And Nick very calmly and rationally sort of explained the timeline of how everything had happened. I'm very interested in this because, and also I've actually had a lot more interaction with Nick than I have Billy. In my time as a fan of the NWA, I've had dinner with them, I've had conversations with them, and I only say that to say, the guy that you guys saw on Not Sam Wrestling is not a character. That is 100% Nick Aldis being Nick Aldis, the dad, the husband, the performer, the businessman. And we were all sort of watching it together the other night going, this is fascinating because you really got to see the thought process in what he was, what sort of led him to this position. And to be clear, like he says in the interview, his 1-year extension ends in January. He asked for his release. He didn't ask for his release. He gave his notice that he was not going to re-sign his contract when it renewed.
Yes.
So he didn't get suspended. He didn't get released. He didn't ask for his release. He is simply not re-signing with them when his contract comes due in January. Period.
Yeah.
He stated in the interview that he felt the product had drifted further away from what his expectations were and what his vision for the product was as a performer. So we have a couple of clips that I want to just show you. First, this is a clip where Sam and a shout out to Sam Roberts. I want to give a big thank you to Sam for giving us permission to use these clips from his social media and from the YouTube as well. From the YouTube. This is Nick being asked about his interaction or his relationship with Billy.
You and Billy, like when you're doing 10 pounds of goal and the brain was going, and Billy were great together, right?
Yeah,
okay.
man. Yeah, no, it was all good. I mean, the sad truth is, and I don't want to spend the whole time talking about this.
Sure.
But basically, things got harder when he became more hands-on. Because at first he was quite hands-off, quite remote, and was just sort of lending ideas and sort of notes here and there.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
And suddenly it turned into something else. And try to be as nice as I can about this.
Mm-hmm.
He's not very good at it, you know? And I wish it wasn't the case. But again, it's not really for me to say. It's for the audience to say. And my decision to leave has come from the fact that the audience have told us. The audience have left in droves. And it's just not a good decision to be there anymore.
So, a couple of things from that clip. You guys, and we talked about this when we watched it, the similarities between Billy Corgan's style of management and Tony Khan's style of management. And the initial stages, Billy was sort of remote, sort of hands off. He was working on Smashing Pumpkin stuff. He was trusting his leadership team, most of whom have left since then. Mm-hmm. And then he came in and sort of took a more hands-on approach. And that's where Nick sort of feels like things went south. Now, I liken that to say, and go back and watch the video when Nick talks about Cody. Tony was like that too. He was sort of remote. He was letting his leadership team, and then at a certain point he stepped in and took over a lot of stuff. And that's sort of when Cody decided it was no longer for him.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about the clip that we just saw, and maybe just sort of your impressions of the interview overall?
I'll go first. First the clip. I do agree that there's definitely similarities with Tony Khan. You know, it was someone that really didn't have anything to do with the wrestling business other than being a fan, started, their own promotion, or, in Tony Khan's case, he initially was just the funding of the promotion. And, then when they stepped in, things kind of started to go downhill a little bit because they're not knowledgeable or experienced in that field. So there's definite similarities there. Overall, with NWA, I think most of us would agree, we were all really excited when NWA came back and NWA Power started. We were all excited. Front row, you went to pretty much every single taping session. We loved the shows initially. We loved all the extra content they were doing, the 10 pounds of gold, and Carneyland was great. And then, there was a certain point where it felt like the tides turned and the product just wasn't as alluring anymore. It felt like the stories that were being told, just weren't like, I don't want to keep using the word interesting, but just, weren't interesting enough, weren't compelling. It just, it felt like it was very lackluster. I understand that Billy wanted to kind of keep the feel of the 80s studio wrestling, and that's great because there's a lot of people who have tons of nostalgia for that. But it felt like, we saw that there was a downhill trajectory of certain talents that we knew were very talented, not being able to shine, whereas other people that, weren't like as, I would say, seasoned, maybe, just were kind of seemingly given opportunities. Now, of course, we don't know everything that happened behind the scenes, but, just for me as an observer, I've been sitting here wondering why Tom Latimer hasn't been in the title picture. I agree. Right. I've been wondering why there hasn't been any sort of real women's division in the NWA outside Camille. And outside talents, they just bring in for a couple shows here or there.
Yeah.
There's just, things like that have just kind of made it harder to watch and made it more like, kind of like Nick said, it's just, it's not where I want to be anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike?
Yeah, I got to echo what Deb just said. It's just, sometimes it was a little confusing watching it, where you'd see a crowd there, then it'd be different. It'd be 10 people there. They were mixing all the matches in. It was just like all the just watching it was very disjointed because it wasn't even the same. It's not even the same crowd every match. Like, it was it was very weird. The talent is nothing against the talent. I pretty much like a lot of the talent there, but yeah, they lost a lot of big names, and now they're losing another one. So.
Yeah, and I want to ask Tony specifically because, like Deb said, like we had been to pretty much all the tapings up to and including, I would say last December in Atlanta was the last set of tapings we attended. So you've been in the studio, you've been there live for pay-per-views, you've been there for tapings, several sets of tapings and pay-per-views. What is the feeling? So, like, and to Mike's point, like we went to the June 2021 tapings, which was only like a handful of people. I think there was a dozen of us there, and that's not because they couldn't sell tickets. It was because of COVID. They were only allowing a couple of people, a handful of people in the room. It was in a smaller studio. They were doing the best they could to give their fans a product back. So I give them credit for that. But
yes,
Tony, typically when we would go to the tapings, it was 2 or 3 or 4 nights, but the shows were taped in order, mostly in order, some content, maybe a filler here and there. How confusing was that set of tapings?
Very confusing. I mean, you're asking a lot of your fan base to not only attend all these tapings and front row, I mean, it is an exhausting day of just sitting there for the taping, 6 hours plus sometimes. And everything is shot out of order. And I mean, you don't even know, and when you watch it back, you don't even know, it's like you're trying to follow it, and it's just, what we're talking about here has nothing to do. It doesn't reflect anything onto the talent. Like Mongrovian said, the talent themselves is amazing. The fan experience there that we've experienced together is amazing. The way they make you feel like you're part of it is amazing. But in my opinion, it's like, Billy likes the like the what do you call it? Where it's old school, but it's like very quaint. Like it's intimate. Yes, good word.
Yes,
it's intimate. Like he don't care about it being visible for a lot of people to see it, like Impact or I won't even say WWE or AEW because that's just a different planet. It's MLW. I mean, it's like you want the fan base wants to be able to see the product, and you've got good talent coming in. Like Bully was just there, telling a story with Mike Knox, and then after that, that's over. You've got Cardona there, which, I think something's brewing with that. Stay tuned. But it's just, I hate the fact that it's just it's hard to get invested in because they're not, you have to purchase this in order to see this. You have to purchase this bundle to see it on YouTube or else you see it later. Where it's already been shown on the bundle, so it's very hard, and I hate that this is going on. But it is what it is, man.
That's not live.
Well, I mean, they've historically been taped.
Yeah. I think it's less that, it's not really having anything to do with how you can watch it. It's more of the product itself, the disjointed storylines, the doing those massive tapings weekends where they tape 3-4 months at a time, and it's like almost every I know they do call them seasons, but like every taping session is like a completely different show, because like you said, they brought in Bully for that set of tapings, and then he wasn't on it all after that. So you're almost getting like a completely different group of talent on every single season. You know, they bring people in for a weekend for tapings, which is 3 or 4 months of content, and then they don't bring them back after that. So that's it. They're just on the show for 3 or 4 months.
One thing I want to say, and it might be controversial, I don't care, but these are my thoughts. 2 things hurt the NWA, in my opinion: COVID, and when they lost Dave Lagana.
Yeah, I would agree.
Great.
You know, I've had the opportunity to spend a fair bit of time with Dave, and he is a wildly creative television executive who operates at a very high level. Like, he worked for WWE for a long time. He has a resume a mile long. And when he left, it took them, they probably had to hire 3 people to do his job.
Right.
And not as well. And I don't know them. Like, this isn't a knock on them, but Dave did an awful lot creative for them. And I think that's a great point. But I just want to let folks know who are watching, just to give you an idea of what the last time we were there in Atlanta. And I'm very grateful for my time there. We had a ball with everybody. It was an awesome weekend. However, we watched a 6-hour taping on Friday, a 6.5 hour of NWA USA. Saturday was the night 1 of the pay-per-view. Sunday was night 2 of the pay-per-view, I think. And then there were 2 nights of tapings, but each day had 2 sets of tapings. So there were 4 sets of tapings over the course of 2 days. We added up at something like 18 or 19 hours of wrestling over the course of 4 or 5 days.
That's a lot.
You lose track of who's doing what, and your hands hurt. And that sounds dumb, but my hands were literally split from clapping. They were split and bleeding from clapping so much.
Brenda still refuses to clap.
Trenda, yes, this is very true.
Yeah,
poor Trenda.
It's a lot to expect of your fans that are there, and you know, I think that, you know, maybe one of the reasons why they haven't been able to get, you know, bigger audiences is because, like, when you go to other wrestling shows, it's, you know, you're driving there for one night and you're driving home, or if it's a little further away, maybe you make the weekend of it and you stay overnight and then come home the next morning or whatever. But when you guys were going to NWA, you know, that's a full-on, like, almost week-long vacation. And that's difficult for a lot of people to do, just to go to a wrestling show. I mean, like, going to WrestleMania was a 5-day trip, and you know, we planned for months and months to do that. So it's a huge undertaking to expect of fans to do all that, you know, and just get 5 days off of work. What about the people with kids? You have to arrange for that, and it's just a lot to expect.
It is. So I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on one more clip, and then I think we're gonna let folks go get over and watch their pay-per-views and snacks and stuff, whatever's going on tonight. I'm sure there's 4 GCW shows on tonight.
and 2 New Japan shows.
Probably. And there is actually an NWA show going on right now. So let me show you this one last clip.
He and Mickey had a private conversation that he didn't realize that I was privy to.
Well, she's your wife.
Yeah,
she's
right.
Your wife,
I know.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, your husband is, you know, pressuring me to put the belt back on him." And you know, and for me that day, I went, "This isn't going to work."
And when was that?
Sometime in the late spring, early summer.
Okay.
And that for me was the sort of moment where I went, "This relationship is not going to continue. It's going to have to end."
Yeah.
And there's oh.
Who's got the echo?
It's probably Mike.
Yeah,
yes.
It's Elder. I had to mute him.
I don't know what he's doing.
Right. We'll bring it back in a minute. I'm gonna pull him away there, let him fix his audio. So there's a part of that led into a conversation where you guys know there was a big hubbub on social media this week and last week with Billy talking about the women's division and there not being enough independent talents, and, you know, Trevor Murdoch sort of echoing his sentiments. And I've never spoken to Trevor about the women's division, but, you know, I like the guy. He's always been super cool with us. I have to think he was just echoing his boss's sentiments because it's his boss. But, you know, this is one of the things that Nick talks about was around they did this Empower pay-per-view, which was widely successful. It was trending #1 in the world. It was sold out. It was all this other stuff. And then a year later, Billy's saying, well, there's not enough talent out there, which is just objectively not true. We know, in speaking with our friends in Mission Pro and CCW and other places that regularly hire top-notch female talent, that there's plenty of people out there.
Yeah, like you said, there's Mission Pro, there's CCW, there's Warrior out of Chicago, there's Women's Wrestling Army now, there's WOW, like, and that's just the most known women's wrestling companies out there. So to say that there's not enough, TV caliber talent is just plain false. And to kind of like make jokes, I don't know if it was, really a joke, but to kind of be sarcastic in a way about, oh, now everybody's sending me lists of names. Like, yeah, because people are pointing out that you're just not, like, your idea is not true. And, if you remember from back in Empower, everybody was talking back then about how there was so much, women's indie talent out there. And it's just, it doesn't make any sense to me to try to make the argument that there's not enough good women's talent out there.
Yeah.
Agreed. Go ahead, Tony.
Oh, I'm sorry. Me and Neil in front row were in the house for Empower. So we saw
and Trenda and
Mrs. Front Row, yes. We were all in the house for that. And we saw the tidal wave that made. That was a special moment. That whole pay-per-view was a special moment. And in the end, that wasn't even shown on television. We saw that. Surrounding the ring, while Chelsea was in the ring with her trophy that she'd won that night. And for them to not take that momentum that they got from that show and run with it baffles me. And for Billy to say what he said, and then you got all these other people, like you said, Deb, giving him a list of stuff, and it's like, well, Billy thinks the way he's going to think, and that's that. You're not going to change his mind, and that's, you can't, in my opinion. I don't own a wrestling company, but you've got to be able to listen to people, and Tony Khan has the same issue to a point. You got to be able to listen to people telling you things and actually you don't have to do everything they're telling you, but at least pay attention to it, because that's a reflection of your fan base on what these people are telling you. You think you're above it all, and so you sometimes you don't see what's below you because you don't look down. You just continue to look ahead and look up. There are people that are below you that are always going to notice things. It's your job to listen to those people, and if you don't, then you get what you're getting right now, I think, in my opinion. So,
which is the way he wants it.
Yeah.
Well,
he gets it.
Yeah. So I encourage everyone to go over and check out that interview that Sam did with Nick Aldis. It's really fascinating. You don't have to choose sides, but I definitely think listening to both interviews gives you a different perspective, because both Billy Corgan and Nick Aldis go way behind the scenes. Like, they just throw the curtain away. It's pretty fascinating. So I then think we lost Mongrovian Mike. I don't see him back on video. So
I don't see him either.
Yeah, we're just going to say goodnight for him. Tony, where can folks find you on the socials?
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at TonyJusticeAJFA. And if you're a Metallica fan, you know what that means. And I want to give a shout out to John in South Jersey, who is at CCW Payback right now. And funny, I mentioned John, because if you see John out there, tell him we said hey, and go up there and just shoot the breeze with him. He will shoot the breeze back. I guarantee you. But this hotel is pretty cool because it had a little notepad on the table, and look what someone wrote on it. Hashtag Nation's Corner on location.
Nice.
So yeah, the hashtag's getting out.
Hashtag.
Nice.
Do we have Mongrovian back?
No,
I don't see his video there. Deb, where can folks find you?
At That's So Debonair on the Twitter machine and the Instagram. yeah, follow me both places. I try to post regularly.
Cool. And I am PW Front Row across the socials. You can find us at Nation's Corner on Twitter and at The Nation's Corner across all the other socials. Everybody have a great week, and we'll see you again next Saturday. Later.